Greetings. My name is Lance Bell. As you already know, the primaries in New York has been in the news lately. Now, I will say they were as far as expected as far as the winners. Now, let's face it, folks. Clinton and Trump was both from that state, so that should have been expected. However, there is some controversy surrounding it, and I will explain here in this video. Now, I want to make one thing very clear before I begin. New York is a closed primary state, meaning that you have to be registered to one of the parties to vote and not be registered as an independent. Now, with that being said, independent voters were outright taken off the voter rolls, and in this host opinion, that is a crime unto itself, and I'm going to explain why. Now, one could say that they should have been switched to a political party. Now, while that is true, and by New York law, they had to do it 6 months before the said primaries. However, it seems like they were not switched at all, or by some reports, upwards of 100,000 was taken off the rolls for whatever reason. Now, you might be asking why I'm bringing all of this up. Well, the answer is very simple. People are mad. As an example, a video by Mark Apollo, people went to the U.S. District Court of Eastern New York in Brooklyn to voice their frustrations.
How we can support that lawsuit with other sort of information we're trying to build out. Great idea! Freedom of information!
Election Justice USA has provided us affidavits that more people for about a month after the actual primary.
Can you say your name and project and tell us what organization you're
We're belong to the Park Sellers.
Yeah, we're with Election Justice USA. I'm also a congressional candidate. We're the attorneys who just filed a federal lawsuit in Central Islip that you mentioned, and the judge ordered us to serve it on boards of elections throughout the different counties in New York, and we just served the Brooklyn County Board. So what we're trying to do is also find out stories from people who've been robbed of their vote, and we're going to include them within our lawsuit. So if anybody here knows anybody or is willing to talk to us afterwards, we were like, not just Brooklyn, all of New York State.
We need compelling statements from people in Brooklyn.
The people who filled out an affidavit, or just the people that did?
People who were not allowed to vote, who were kicked off the voter rolls in Brooklyn.
Or they registered and it never went on? Sorry?
And then had to do an affidavit.
And then went through affidavits. We like to hear stories about people who had to wait hours to see a judge too, because when we actually went in front of the judge yesterday, the judge said, it's not really a problem if you have to go see a state court judge. You know, you can take the time off to go vote, but a lot of people, they don't have 3 or 4 hours. You know, a lot of Senate voters that are voters for the first time, that are just new citizens, they're scared of the judicial process. So it really is an impediment to voting.
How do you protect Can you share an email or a website that we can send people to send?
All our affidavits are going through the Facebook webpage, Election Justice USA. Fill out a form. Our group, we have 6 or 7 wonderful members, and they're very active, and they spend all day long preparing an affidavit. They'll send it back to you. You get it notarized, and if you want to join on to the class action, join on right
You'll
now.
find it there.
Can you say the Facebook page again? And do you have a Twitter?
Election Justice USA. Twitter handle, I don't know, but I'm sure it's posted on
Are
that.
you doing anything?
I know that this might not be going anywhere, and I hate to say that. However, people want to be involved. Now, is it the effect of Bernie Sanders? Probably so. The youth want to get involved, and that is a great thing for the Republic at large, and there is no doubt about that at all. So much, in fact, in this video, an independent voter, voiced her dismay in the entire process so far.
Want to do anything, so I demanded an affidavit that way. And then I was only given Republican choices. And I didn't realize that when I went over to fill it out, and I went back and I said, excuse me, I don't want to vote for any of these people. And I was laughed at. So he said he wasn't
it.
I was only given Republican choices. And then I went back to the man who was helping me and I said, I don't want to vote for any of these people. Can I have the Democratic sheet? And I was laughed at.
You say you're a registered Democrat.
Yes.
You told them that.
Yes.
I work the Board of Elections. They require us to give you a Democratic ballot if that's the case.
Yes. So I requested it and he said he wasn't sure if they had any. And I said, well, please find them. And I'm trying to stay calm throughout the meeting. So finally he finds them and they're all sealed up because it is 6 a.m. and they just opened and they're disorganized. And that was it. So I filled out the affidavit. I just urged everyone on social media to question what was happening and take their time. And yeah, that was pretty much it. That was my story.
So you were not on the voter rolls?
No, I was not. And I have been a registered Democrat for 8 years.
When was the last time you voted?
2013 or 14. Yeah.
So you have been voting?
Yeah, I've been voting. And when I checked on the website, everything was fine. So it was curious.
Yeah.
This is the Sanders effect. As you can see in the video screen of him taking a tour of the housing project in Brooklyn. Now, I will give my comment on what he said in a moment, but here's what he said after the tour.
Few hours ago, I was in Brownsville, here in Brooklyn. And I visited with some New York City public housing in Brownsville. And what I learned is that in Brownsville, in Brooklyn, all over this city, all over this state, we have a $17 billion backlog in construction needs. We have community centers for kids that are closing down. We have kids who are unemployed and have no hope of getting a job. Unfortunately, they do have hopes and do have success in getting guns. Our job is to give kids jobs, not guns. And that is why together we are going to transform our national priorities. We're going to rebuild inner cities in this country rather than waste trillions on wars we never, ever should have gotten into.
Mr. Sanders, you do realize that it's sky high to build in the tri-state area? I am not saying that you are wrong. You are totally correct in what you said. But let's see a plan to bring that cost down, at least in the New York City area. Now, with this election cycle, I have been very careful on what research I do for this show. But this article came to my attention this week. For you long-time viewers, you know that I do not pull from ultra-partisan websites of any kind. But this time, I have to call the Daily News Bin out on the carpet. Now, they are very lucky as of this taping, their website is down. So I can't even screen cap and show it to you. But what I want to talk about is the title of this article, which is this: Registered Independents have no business voting in the New York primary. Now, if and when this website comes back up, and it did not do some heavy editing, I got a huge issue with this poorly written opinion piece. If you read the article, it basically states that independent voters are only allowed to vote in the general election. Now, the OP fails to mention that stance only applied if you live in a closed primary state. As an example, I even accused Michigan of election rigging by Democratic voters intentionally voting for Trump, knowing that he would lose badly in a general election. However, that is the risk you run. But the article is trying to force said independents to a side, and that makes no sense, especially you are forcing to vote against their own interests just for party affiliation alone, because you're saying that's more important. Now, I said it last year that this year's election will be one of the worst on record, and it's halfway down that road already. I hope that we as a nation can do to Fred Flintstone to put the hard brakes on this, because it needs to be done really, really soon.